Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. Today's video is titled Film Photography, Which Format is Best? And in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the different kinds of formats which are available for the two most popular kinds of film, which are 35mm and 120 roll film. And I have an assortment of cameras here in different formats, which I hope will explain the differences. Today is Saturday, October 4th. It's a very beautiful day outside, but unfortunately I'm stuck indoors because I'm still recovering from my big bicycle crash last month. The good news is that they've taken the staples out of my head and the stitches out of the different parts of my body. I'm still wearing this clavicle brace, which the doctor says I'll have to keep on for another 3 or 4 weeks. The bad news is that I'm kind of in a little bit of pain still. I have the broken clavicle and still 2 ribs which are broken, but pain isn't as bad as it was, and I'm recovering, and hopefully I'll be on my bike in another 5 weeks or so. I signed up during the summer to take part in the big Rainbow Bridge ride this winter, and hopefully I'll be in shape to do that. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. I have an assortment of cameras here, as I said, in different formats. Film cameras. I have one oddball camera. That's this little guy right here in the front. This is a little Pentax 110, which uses 110 film, which isn't exactly common nowadays, but it can be found. And I thought I would just include this camera here in my collection to give you a little bit more, I guess, contrast between the smallest and the larger cameras. And of course this isn't the largest of cameras which you can get, but it's pretty big for what comes in a 120 roll film camera. Now one of the reasons people like to shoot film is because film still offers some differences, or some might say advantages over digital. First, that it's organic. That it provides a more organic and natural kind of photo than digital is. One thing that some people complain about digital is that it's too good or too realistic, and actually better than the way our eyes are able to perform. I have that issue when I'm watching like 4K TV. 4K TV is really high resolution, 60 frames per second and all of that, but I don't think most people have the physical ability to keep up. They don't have eyesight good enough to see things so well, unless they are kids or something like that who have especially sharp eyes. So I think that in many cases that film photography gives you an image which is more compatible with your natural eyesight and your ability to appreciate art, or at least that's my excuse. So when it comes to formats in the different films, so with the 110 camera here, we have basically a similar format to the larger 35mm full frame, just using smaller film. People like to use these smaller cameras sometimes because it gives you the maximum film effect, because you're using a very small amount of film, and when that's enlarged to a normal image size, to a print, or even a screen, an image which you look at on your screen, you're definitely going to see that it has a strong film effect. The grain and such is going to be very visible in the image. The same can be said of this camera here. This is a half frame camera, an Olympus pen from the late 1950s. This one shoots ordinary 35mm film, but gives you a negative which isn't much larger than this little 110 camera here. Now, the logic behind the half-frame cameras was mainly economical. People, the idea wasn't to greatly improve, the filminess of the images you were getting, but to allow you to use film more economically, to be able to use get twice as many exposures on a roll of film, plus being able to create a smaller camera which was less expensive to produce. Of course, we have the rangefinder cameras here. This one here dates from the 1930s. This is my Leica, which I've had for a while now, which I kind of rebuilt from the ground up. And I like this camera because it's a full frame 35mm camera with an excellent lens. That everyone knows that these Leitz lenses are wonderful. And it's still compact enough to fit inside a camera. It allows you to fold, on these models here you can fold the lens inside so it takes up less space. I love how smooth and quiet it is, and with these old lenses I love the kind of look which you get from them, which are kind of missing from the modern lenses, which I think are maybe a little bit too good. Moving up to a camera with the exact same film format, I have this Nikon SLR here. This is an f3 from the mid-1980s. This is a professional quality camera, which I've had for a number of years now. I have a few of these, and I really love them because they're durable, they're smooth, they're flexible. There are a lot of things which you can do with these cameras. They're very adaptable to different photographic situations. So this takes the 35mm full format film to a much higher level, much more accurate exposures, and many more lens options and things like that. Moving out of the 35mm realm, we get to cameras like this camera. This is a Konica Pearl. This is a Pearl 2 from the 1950s. And this is a camera which uses 120 roll film, which is a very old design of film. It existed before 35mm film, and it may exist after 35mm film. I'm not sure. This is a compact camera. As you can see, it's smaller and lighter than the 35mm camera here, but this one, despite its primitive design, is actually capable of capturing images with much higher resolution and dynamic range than this much more sophisticated and much newer design of cameras. It folds up so it can fit in your pocket. You can unfold it like so. There's a little thing here which allows you to set it up and take pictures in what is known as the landscape or horizontal format. And over here I have a square format camera. This is my Rolleiflex F, which also uses 120 roll film. These cameras both use the same kind of film, but this one offers a larger film surface and can capture more details. And this is one of the final or the latest variations of the 120 film twin lens reflex cameras. Of course, there are newer medium format cameras made by Fuji and such, and I may have an example that I'll share with you before long. But they offer a wide variety of different formats which allow you to get the most out of film and to whatever fits your photographic style. So I'll go ahead and move this little guy out of the way. I think these are really cool cameras. I'm surprised that Pentax made these. This is really an interesting little SLR 110 camera with different lenses available for it. A really good performer, and if you guys are total film buffs who want the most filmy image possible, something like this is probably going to be most suitable for you. Now, the Olympus Pen, this one, as I said, was made in the 1950s. It allows you to get twice as many exposures on a roll of film and allows you to get a really strong film look on your images. This camera is made in what is called the portrait format, so it has a vertical rectangle when you are looking through the viewfinder and when you're taking photos. To shoot it in landscape style, you simply turn the camera sideways like so, and that gives you similar proportions that you would get from an ordinary 35mm camera. Now, these have been very popular in recent years, and this is actually my favorite camera if I want a good film effect. I like the W version, which is a slightly wider angle version of this camera. It has a slightly better lens, which gives you, in my case, I like the results better with the 25mm lens, and with the 28mm lens, you still get the 72 exposures per roll of film. I love these in that they're very simple and very easy to shoot. When I go out on a day like today, on an overcast day where the light is pretty steady and there are no shadows, I can quickly preset the aperture and shutter speed on this camera, and then preset the focus, to the kind of images which I want to capture. And then pretty much all I have to do is wind the camera and focus and shoot. I don't have to do anything other than that. It's very fast, it's very simple, and as you can see, this camera is very quiet. It's a wonderful camera for street or candid photography. It's small enough that it doesn't attract attention, and it's quiet enough that most people don't realize that you're taking photos with it. An upgrade over this, a rather expensive upgrade, is my old Leica here. And this offers many of the same features as my pen: the compact size, the quiet operation. What this adds to that is the ability to focus more precisely with the built-in rangefinder. on cameras like this where you can fit a faster lens, this one is fitted with a Sumar 50mm f2 lens, which in those days was considered a high-speed lens. Faster lenses have a smaller depth of field, which means you have to focus them more precisely in order to get things in focus. Now you can fit this camera with a 28mm lens or a 35mm lens, and these will increase the depth of field where precise focus isn't so necessary. And some of the earliest versions of these cameras didn't come with rangefinders. They were scale focus cameras, and you would simply look at the focusing scale on the lens when you were focusing it. I like also this camera because it's also very quiet and smooth. I'm using my left hand because my right arm is still quite sore. So one of my favorite cameras, and one thing which is really good about these cameras is the lenses are magic if you get them in good condition. Good condition means that they don't have any haze on the inside and they don't have too many scratches on them. A little bit of haze and a touch of scratches tend to add character, I think, to the image. What is people call that Leica glow. It isn't something that was engineered into the camera. I believe these things had a lot less glow, half a century ago when they were newer and had less haze and fewer scratches on them. But nowadays, they definitely, if you're shooting film with one of these cameras, with one of these vintage lenses, you can definitely see the effect on film. So moving up to the cameras which most of us are likely to shoot. Most of us are likely going to have something like this, or maybe more likely something like this Canon AE1. Zillions of these cameras were made, and these you can find in thrift stores or closets in homes across the world. Perfectly good cameras, and one of the good things about these more modern cameras is they offer some automatic capability, which makes them easier to shoot for people who don't have a lot of skill in operating cameras. And the good thing about these is they take a wide variety of lenses and accessories, which makes them very adaptable to a person's particular photographic style, no matter how extreme that photographic style might seem. When I say extreme, I really mean extreme. So if I take this Nikon F3 and I max it out and accessorize it as much as I can, I would end up with something like this. And this is, once again, the Nikon F3 fitted with an MD4 motor drive and with a big reflex Nikkor lens, the big 1000mm lens. Very good for shooting things like at the moon and stuff like that. But as you can see, there are a lot of options which you can choose for these cameras. Now, the F3 is suitable for astrophotography, for microphotography, for macrophotography, for sports photography. You name it, you can adapt this camera to do it. And I really love these. My first good camera was the FE, and when I had enough money, I upgraded to the F3 way back in the 1980s. I really loved it. These are really solid and durable workhorses of cameras, and if you're an amateur, you're probably not going to bust one of these up. Now, this camera obviously belonged to a pro, but not just any pro. This camera belonged to a guy who was in the UK's Special Boat Service, and he used it to record operations back in the day. And when I got it, it had some saltwater damage to it. It took a lot of work to get this camera going again, despite the fact that it's the professional model. It's weatherproofed with titanium parts and all that. Service in, I guess, the Special Boat Service is rather extreme, even for a camera like this. It still has his sticker on the back here for the 2000 speed film, which he used to use when he shot this camera. So, moving up to these guys here. The 6x45 format I like a lot. It's a very similar camera to the Olympus Pen. The 6x45 you could probably call the half frame of medium format cameras. The full frame on these would be considered a 6x9, and so the 6x45 gives you very high resolution, very high what is that word? I hit my head pretty hard last month, and my head still isn't working 100%. Hopefully it'll be working 100% again shortly. So, dynamic range. I knew that if I was thinking of something else, that's always the case. So I'm trying to find something and I can't find it. the easiest way to find it is to start looking for something else. If I'm looking for something else, I always find the original thing I was looking for. But yes, high dynamic range, higher resolution, and if I compare these two cameras, as I said before, this one here is going to offer you much more detail, much more resolution, more dynamic range than this far more sophisticated and newer camera. So the good thing about the Pearl, besides the high resolution and shooting 120 film, like the little pin camera here, you get twice as many exposures on a roll of 120 roll film. You can get 16 exposures on this camera. For the 6x6 camera, my Rolleiflex here, I get 12 exposures, which I find is quite fine. And I like the square format. That's kind of the Instagram format, and I find that this is... it took me a little while for this format to grow on me. I've always been kind of the guy who likes the typical 24 by 36 35 millimeter format. But what really blew me away when I was shooting with the twin lens reflex cameras was the sharpness, as I said, the resolution, the dynamic range, the detail, which can be captured with these cameras. An ordinary 35 millimeter camera shooting a high quality film will give you about a 35 megapixel image. And if you're shooting the medium format cameras, you will get much more, many more megapixels. If you're shooting large format, say 4x5, you're going to get way over 100 megapixels in quality out of those. I have done some 4x5 shooting in the past, and I like that because it's very flexible. You can shoot horizontally or vertically. And when I scan these images and put them on my computer, they take up a lot of space because they obviously contain a lot of information. And I start zooming in on my mouse, and I can just zoom and zoom and zoom and zoom. It's kind of like that old Disney ride, Journey to the Center of the Earth. The more you zoom in, the more detail you see. That's the cooler thing about these big cameras here. Now, when it comes to what a lot of people like digital for, a lot of people like digital because of what they can do with the images after they've uploaded them to their computers. They can edit the images, they can change the sharpness, they can increase or decrease the exposure, they can add or decrease the color saturation and things like that. Film, back when it was originally engineered, it was engineered to be able to give you a quality image without having to do any of this post-processing. A high-quality film was engineered to give you a nice organic image with the proper colors, the proper tone, and all that without having to mess with it. And that's one of the things which is good about film. But one of the interesting things about film nowadays is that you can scan it, and when you develop film nowadays, you can have your film also developed into negatives as well as put onto a CD or other media which you can use to put on your computer, and you can still edit your film images to increase contrast or all the things you can do with digital, but still have kind of that film magic to your image. And as I said, I like film because normally if you do it right, you get a good image the first time. You don't have to play with it a lot. And if you're using a camera like this Nikon here, or even the Canon AE1, though this is rather primitive technology compared to nowadays, for film it's just perfectly fine. It gives you just the right amount of exposure. As long as you get the exposure right on the film, the colors and everything else are going to work out well. Now, as I said, there are so many different variations and options. Personally, the basic 35mm, the 24 by 36 format I really like. That puts everything where I want it to be and allows me to follow the basic rule of thirds process for composing images. And for those of you who are interested in getting the most out of your pictures, that's something I would recommend you study. The rule of thirds, or learn the Fibonacci scale, which will show you how to put things in your image and how to choose your images in order to get the most appealing result possible. I should make a video about that in the future. Now, I remember reading about Henri Cartier-Bresson, who's probably the most famous 35mm photographer, the old original Leica guy, the one who made so many famous photos. His priority when he was out shooting was the geometry of the photo. He wasn't so much interested in the light or shade, but if the things were in the correct place and he placed them in the correct place on the image, then he would get the maximum effect, and the people would people loved properly composed images more than images with good subjects if the subject is in the wrong part of the frame. So when you look through many cameras through the viewfinders like this one here, you'll often see a double set of horizontal and vertical lines. This is made to kind of simplify the rule of thirds system. The lines are a guide of where you should put the horizon or the skyline, or where you should put the subject in the frame depending on which direction it's facing or moving. And when you're choosing a format or of camera, this kind of system is something you have to think about when you're choosing your format. It's a little bit more difficult to do when you're using a vertical format camera like this. But if you're shooting people, the vertical format or the square format are really wonderful formats to shoot with. If you're shooting architecture or you're shooting landscapes, the rectangular horizontal format, these are the ones which tend to work the best, the ones which our eyes are most used to seeing. And of course, there are some cameras which offer multiple formats. For example, a simple one I have here is this Mamiya camera. This is a Mamiya 6, and this one offers two formats. This camera allows you to shoot in 6x45 or 6x6 formats. So in one camera you have the capability of doing what both of these cameras here are capable of doing. And there are cameras which offer even more options. For example, another Mamiya camera. This is a big universal here. Now this camera with the correct film back is capable of shooting anywhere from the 6x45 to 6x9 film back, which allows the most possible options. The sacrifice is that this is a rather large, heavy, and clunky camera. But other advantage to this camera, besides being a large, a multi-format camera, is also it's a kind of a multi-film camera. By simply changing the film backs, you can change formats very quickly. You can also use instant film with the camera like this, and instant film generally comes in one format for these, for the pack film, but there are options with earlier film backs. And now there are some people who, since Fuji stopped making instant pack film, there are other people who are making instant film. And if I were to use an instant film camera, this would be something of my choice. It's fairly economical compared to some of the other options which are out there, and you really can't beat the quality of the lenses or the construction of these cameras. So I'll go ahead and collect all these guys back together here. So which of these cameras is best for you? That depends. If you're a person who is more into shooting people, as I said, I like the square format for that, and also the vertical formats like these two cameras here, the Pin or the Pearl 2. If I'm shooting most anything else, the normal horizontal rectangular format, which I would get with the normal 35mm cameras, that would be quite wonderful. Now, if I want to shoot something where a camera which is I can shoot other things like sports or nature as an option, something like the SLR camera is going to be my top choice because of the variety of the lenses which I can fit onto this guy here. And for myself, if I'm going out for a walk just to go and do some shooting, I would probably limit myself between 3 cameras here. This one here, I'm kind of familiar with the rangefinder cameras, and I'm able to focus them quite quickly. And if I like the film effect, I will choose the half frame camera, just because it's super fast to use, and at the widest aperture, at the f2. Or f3.5, depending on which camera I'm using. If the subjects are fairly close, I get a really good, wonderful out-of-focus effect in the background. It's a little bit hard to do with a wider angle half-frame format, but it is possible, and I really love the effect I get with this camera. The effect on a full-frame camera like this is much stronger, especially with a much faster lens like this, and these lenses give some really dreamy out-of-focus effects when you're using them. But I think this one is better for people. This one is better for, let's say, geometry or things like that. if I want the maximum performance, to get the most detail and dynamic range and all that which I can get out of film, I will move to the larger format camera like this with the higher quality planar or Xenotar or Tessar or whatever lens it happens to be. That's the one good thing about the film photography is the plethora. I don't often get to use the word plethora in a sentence. Of cameras which are available, not to mention the different kinds of film, the monochrome films or the different kinds of color films or even slide films which are available. For myself, I tend to stick between just two films. I like Fuji Velvia, which I prefer to use in my more sophisticated SLR cameras because this offers me the highest color resolution, and I really love the colors of slide film. But you have to have a camera with an accurate meter because you have to be very close with the exposure when you're shooting slide film. If you're using negative film like Fuji Superia or whatever, any of these cameras is good. As long as you're in the ballpark within a stop or so on your exposure, you're going to get good results. For the most part, I like to shoot monochrome, and my film of choice is usually Kodak Tri-X, which you can get in roll film or in 35mm. My old favorite was Fuji Presto 400, which unfortunately Fuji discontinued a few years ago. Even here in Japan, people preferred the Kodak Tri-X 400 to the Fuji Superia. For myself, I kind of preferred the Fuji Superia because with the developer I used, I got just the right kind of grain and sharpness to the film effect that I liked. But I still have a stock of old Presto, which I can use when I run short of Tri-X, and I really love the way that works. And for my rangefinder cameras, I pretty much always use black and white film in these because I think it's most suitable to the vintage lenses and the vintage feel that you get from the photographs. So anyway, that's going to be it for this video. My shoulder is starting to hurt now. I think it's about time to take another painkiller. Painkiller here in Japan is nothing ever stronger than acetaminophen. They don't have anything like an opioid crisis here because opioids are rarer than chicken's teeth here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of aspirin and try to let the pain subside a little bit, and maybe go out for a walk later, try to get a little bit of exercise, and maybe take a camera with me and take a few photos. I'll probably take this one here because I can operate this one more easily left-handed. Anyway, if anyone has any questions or suggestions or wants to share any of their experiences shooting in different formats or different kinds of film, please leave those in the comments section below. And as you can see, I have a pretty good variety of cameras here, and I usually have a pretty good variety of cameras for sale in my online store. So if you're interested in film photography and want to buy a camera, please check out my online stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. I'm finally getting caught up with orders. Obviously, for the past few weeks, it was kind of difficult between the time I spent in the hospital and the amount of work I can do during the day in comfort. But finally, I've got just about everything out, so things are starting to get back to normal, hopefully. After 3 or 4 weeks, I'll be fully recovered and can go out and find a way to break myself up again. Anyway, if you like the video, please like it. And now that I have more time off, I plan to make a few more videos over the upcoming weeks. If you'd like to see these, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.